business that the Finance Committee was taking care of. All right, then. At this time, if it pleases the other directors, I will call the meeting to order for the Board of Directors of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District meeting for Thursday, January 28th, 2021. Board Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I will begin with Director Gould.
Here.
Director Orzali, have you rejoined? He's been having some connection issues. Director Wood.
Here.
Sheets.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
White.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Sailors.
Here.
President Kelly, turning it back over to you.
Am I being heard okay? I forgot to put my earbuds in.
Yes,
Everybody.
we hear you just fine.
Okay, thank you. At this time, if we could all rise and pledge to the flag. And repeat after Director White.
I was on mute. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United
of the United States of America,
States of the Republic,
for which it stands,
One nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
Indivisible.
with liberty
liberty
and
and
justice for all.
Thank you, Director White. All right, the Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for Cablecast on Metro Cable 14, replay on Monday, February 1st at 6 p.m. and Thursday, February 4th at 2 p.m. on Channel 14, webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Are there any speakers?
We did not have anyone reach out beforehand. However, Art, if you could unmute all callers and give them a chance to speak if they so wish.
Yeah, doing so now. Attendees, you now have the ability to unmute yourselves if you'd like to add anything at this moment. Looks like no response.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
moving on to the consent agenda. We have consent items 3 in number. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the consent.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. I know Director Wood, and was the second was Director Sailors. Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Seeing no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, excuse me. I'm not at a union meeting.
That's true.
There's a motion and a second. Board Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Director Gould,
Aye.
Director Orzali, have you joined? Director Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Sailors,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
On to presentation items, a new website debut. Mr. Roseberry, this is yours.
All right, good evening, directors. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Excellent. So we've been developing a new website. Our intent is to make it easy to navigate, easy to find information, unlike our current website is now. We're still working with the vendor to finalize a few details. And we have a go live date coming up next week. That's our goal. So what I'd like to do now is Art is going to give you a live preview. And then after he's done, If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. If you think of something later on after the meeting, don't hesitate to send me an email, and then we can address it. All right, Art, take it away.
Okay, good evening, directors. I am Arthur Hong, and I will be your guide today to show off some highlights of our new website. One second here, I'm about to share it. All right, everybody see that all right?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes.
Great. So with our new site, the front page is going to be more simplistic. So we're taking away the clutter and giving a more clean presentation, as you can see here. So this also allows us to show some nice pictures of our stations and engines and any other themes we would like. In this case, this is a slideshow. We can change that if we like, but for now it's going to rotate between various pictures within like about a 10-second interval. So on the top here, we have an expansive menu, and this is where we can clearly list our main pages, and it gives us room to grow as we continue to add new information. And as you can see here, this gives us a better way to categorize our information. Now scrolling down further, we have what are called main action buttons, which brings us to some main points of focus. And I'll go over a few of those in just a moment, but I'm just going to go scroll down a little bit further first. And this is going to be our most recent news. And this is where our most featured items are going to be presented first. And then scrolling down after that, we have our social media information. And these are linked over to our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And these are live links. So anything that gets changed there, it'll show up here. So users can quickly see what we're up to. So I'm going to scroll back up here. And the first thing I would like to show is the changes that we made to our station locations. Here you can see there's a pretty comprehensive view of our station locations through the Google Maps. You can, of course, zoom in, pick a pin, pick a point. It's going to show some, we could have more information, but for now we're just showing the picture and the address. And that should suffice in most cases. But if we wanted to drill in with more details, it is something we can add in the future. And then as I scroll into the different stations, it'll try to center the pin pop-up so that the locations can be seen by the users. All right, then I will go back out of there. And I'll bring our attention to the new agendas and minutes section. Here, we no longer need to separate the meetings by each individual year. Instead, all the meetings will be here, and you can just search for specific date ranges to look up any specific meetings. And this gives a pretty good at a glance look at the agendas, packages, meeting minutes, and meeting videos. So if there are videos, there's going to be a link here that'll just bring you to YouTube, and the attachments, the PDFs and everything are pretty much easy access. And also up here is where you can do a filter of the dates that you would like. So if you want to go back to a earlier meeting and see what information we have for that, or the minutes and such, you can do so. And then you can scroll down and see all that information. Also, we have from here, there is a monthly view. So you can actually see through the calendar, like a quick glance at what's coming up and if there's any specific information there. And of course, we have a lot of videos to upload. So this is kind of a work in progress. At the moment, we do have most, I believe, of the 2020 videos. So we will be getting even further back as much as we can, as fast as we can. And going back out, I'm going to next go to our Board of Directors section here. And we can see the new board of members section, as well as the division boundary maps. We have everything kind of just listed out by color coding. And of course, we can still drill down to the specific divisions. And then from here, I'd also like to show the transparency page that we have recently updated. We also have here the certificates, which we can click and it will pop up with the clear details of the certificate itself. Sorry if it's a little blurry on the display here. May just be kind of a connection issue. And then there's a bit more information, the budgets, and of course, our keynotes and such. So there's a lot on the website, of course, and there are things we're still working on, but those are mainly the highlights that I wanted to show for tonight. So that pretty much concludes my brief presentation, and I'll take it back to you, Matt.
All right,
Thank
thank you
you
very
very
much,
much.
Art.
Wrong Matt, sorry.
Oh, do any of you have any questions or comments you'd like to add?
I think that if I may, any directors have any comments?
I just
have
had,
a-
sorry.
Go.
Director Sailors, go first.
Yeah, I have one question. How much maintenance will be required to keep this website up and running and current?
Well, that's an unknown at this time. We do have to make sure that all the content is updated and current, unlike our last website. And we're going to kind of play it by ear. IT will be responsible for making all of the additions and edits. So when other divisions have something they want to add or change, they'll send it to us to make those updates. So we're going to have to play it by ear and see how much time is involved in that. We do have our vendor that will be hosting it. They will host it and they will make all the updates on the back end for security and for upgrading their platform. So we won't have to do any of that maintenance, just the content updates.
Does it link with any other software that we have within our use that can automatically update things?
No, it does not. We
Okay.
can look at developing some APIs. I know that the vendor, they do a lot of modules in the background that they've created. We don't currently use those. One of which is they do like a bid module. They have a human resources module, but we do use other products for those.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you. That's all.
you're welcome.
Any other
Matt?
questions, directors?
Director White, I was just curious when the last time that the department's webpage was updated.
We updated or revamp. We did
Well, the last revamp.
the revamp. Yeah, we did the current version we are on now. I believe we did that probably, I want to say 2010. It's been quite some time since we did that. So now this is a newer look and feel. This is more of the modern style websites are going to. It's to be able to provide a lot of information, but not have a lot of clutter, as Art mentioned.
Thank
And I
you.
have a quick follow-up question. It was mentioned, but when will we be able to access this?
We're looking at going live next week. Our goal is the 1st of February, which is Monday. We're still working with the state of California because they own our domain in order to provide the details to get it over to our current vendor that's going to be hosting it. So if it doesn't go live on the 1st, it's going to go live very shortly after that.
Matt, I have a question for you.
Sure.
In all of the search functions that we saw tonight, in order to be able to gather, for instance, the agendas that we have, are you going to, because you have that calendar piece where you can just pick on the calendars, that if the agendas or the documents that they're requesting are not in a queue, that it will black those out or gray those out so that that's not an option, or tell the community member that they'll have to make a special request? Because I'm just wondering how far back you go. And since it's on the director's page, if they get frustrated on our page to find documents because it's really not searchable or available, they're not going to like Director Jones.
Sure. Melissa did let us know that we should carry 2 years of documents. So before next week, we'll be uploading all of 2019 as well. And the vendor mentioned that they are changing this module to allow you to search by year. So I can see if we can't just have 2 prior years instead of having the ability to go to 2018 or 2017. So I will make a note and see what we can do to dial that back so that you don't do a search for 17 and have no documents.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Directors? Matt, thank you. Mr. Roseberry, thank you very much for your report.
You're welcome.
Looks like a good addition to the information that we're getting out to the public.
Fantastic.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you again. Moving on to action items. We have a vehicle and apparatus purchase approval for the fleet division. Is Mr. Shea Purcell with us?
Yes, sir. Actually, I have 5 for you this evening. President Kelly, directors, Chief Harms, Shea Purcell, your fleet manager. As a side note, all these specifications for these vehicles were put together collaboratively by fleet, the medic, wildland, engine apparatus committees, along with senior staff. I'm going to run down through these because I've got 6 pages and we don't want another board meeting like last time. So here we go. My first item is for the purchase of a 2022 Peterbilt 220 box truck for the logistics division from Dobbs Peterbilt, formerly Western Truck Parts and Equipment. This vehicle will be replacing a 1997 flatbed truck that is 14 years past its replacement target. The 220 series Peterbilt is a smaller cab over style delivery vehicle that will not require a commercial license to operate. The district will benefit from the safety features of this modern vehicle compared to the 24-year-old Ford flatbed it will be replacing. It has significantly increased driver visibility and is much easier to maneuver because of the cab over design. This purchase will be made through the Sourcewell purchasing contract, combining the buying power of more than 50,000 government, education, and nonprofit organizations. Sourcewell holds hundreds of competitively solicited cooperative contracts we can take advantage of. The exception to competitive bidding document for this purchase has been submitted, reviewed, and approved by our purchasing division. The cost for this vehicle is $104,810.76. The funds for this purchase are included in the fiscal year 2021 final budget. And staff is recommending that the board approve the purchase of this box truck for our logistics division from Dobbs Peterbilt.
All right. Board Clerk, do we need to take these separately or can we motion them all at the same time?
That is a very good question, President Kelly. John Lawver, would you mind weighing in on this? Should we do it similar to how we do our budget? And
no, we don't need to. I mean, these are, all part of equipment and apparatus. So you can, it's either way, but you can do them all at one time. You don't have to do a separate vote.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we adopt.
We have a motion and a second. First was by Director Gould. Second was by Director Sheets, I believe.
Yes, sir.
All right, then. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing no questions on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye, or excuse me. Or call the roll. Hard habits are.
Right. It's hard, man. I know.
I wish we could do it that way.
Yeah.
All right, I'll begin with Director Gould.
Aye.
Director Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Sailors.
Aye.
And Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Moving on to item number 2, the response to the request of Mr. David Warren. And this was supposed to be Director Orzales, but he is not. Has he joined us, Ms. Pania? I don't know if I see him.
So he has joined us by phone, but Shay, I want to make sure, did you
I
have
have
more
4
information on each item?
It's up to you guys. You guys have all of the documentation. I was just gonna run through them route. So if you're good
So-
with as they exist, I am. And with your blessing, I will get them ordered.
Does anybody have a need to put Mr. Shea on the spot to give a report on the other 4 items?
Well, I'd love to put him on the spot, but I think it's fine tonight.
I was waiting for
Okay,
that, Grant.
all right then.
Yeah, I
Thank
just would like to appreciate the use of Sourcewell and making sure that we're getting the most competitive price for these vehicles.
Absolutely.
And we had the opportunity to look at it in the board packet as well. So thank you for your time, Mr. Purcell. We'll let you go for the evening.
Have a wonderful night. Thanks, directors.
Thank you. All right, then. Director Orzali, are you prepared to weigh in on item number 2?
This is Arthur. Just let you know, Orzali is on the phone. However, I believe he has to change the mute on his phone. Director, are you able to talk?
I also see him on camera. It looks like he is unmuted. However, I'm not hearing anything. Still not hearing anything.
The host should ask him to unmute, and sometimes that's what happens, is allows it to unmute if you ask.
Yeah, I don't have an option right now. He's technically not muted on my side.
It might be something similar to Director Kelly's situation last meeting.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that he restart his system so that it brings up that audio choice at the beginning.
Does he know American Sign Language?
Can he give us a thumbs up if he's happy with the document?
He looks a little frozen now.
Randy, 2 thumbs if you're good. Oh, look,
Star
backwards.
6 on your phone might unmute you, Randy.
He's,
Melissa, just put his phone up to your mic.
Poor guy.
poor guys.
I know.
Some of these Luddites, they really struggle with.
Oh, please. Charitable judgment of your fellow.
Give the guy a break, Ghoul.
You know, we are really merciless here.
Watch, it'll work. Watch, it'll work. He'll come up. You just watch, it'll work. Now he's mad.
I can hear a car starting. He's driving to your house. All right.
I say we go. Table it.
Well, I could find it and we could read it ourselves, correct? But I
We
would
can
have to
see
find it.
if there were any other directors who might have had edits to the letter.
Good point.
I think it was fine.
Has everybody had a chance to review the letter?
Yep.
Yes.
And if you
Yes.
reviewed it and you have some edits to make, can we discuss them now? Nobody has any edits? All right then. Do we risk approving this without his assistant, Mr. Director Orzali's assistance? All right then. I would entertain a motion on action item number 2.
I so move.
Mr. David
Second.
Moore.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Director Clark, the second.
I second Jennifer Sheets.
Thank you, Director Sheets. Board Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Director Gould,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Sailors,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very well. Please, if you're on the phone with Mr. Orzali or know how to reach him, let him know the motion's been Carried.
Will do.
Thank you. Moving on to reports, President's report. I have nothing to report at this time. Move on to the fire chief's report.
Good evening, directors. Thank you for being here tonight. My report is the recruitment opportunities. We have a single role paramedic recruitment that is open. That will be open until February 16th. As far as some reassignments, Christine Rivera and Danielle Blancy have been selected to fill in on our COVID-19 unit. They'll be on that unit for the next 6 months. That unit is out and does COVID testing across the district, and our own members, and that money that is for that unit is reimbursed from the county to us. Firefighter paramedic Patrick Farrell has been selected for an assignment at the EMS division. He will start over there, or started over there on the 19th. Captain Shani Cornell was reassigned back to suppression. I just want to thank Shani for her work that she did over there at EMS, whether she was on EMS 24 or one of the staff positions. She did just a great job. As far as meetings for the fire chief this week, we had a number of meetings this week with the JDC, which is the Joint Defense Council, working through our ALS letter of agreement that we would have with the IMSA. We are making progress forward. Even though it is slow, I would say we are making progress forward, which is really good. On the 25th, we had a meeting with the Sac City Fire Department. It is a monthly meeting that we have with them. It's a very positive one. It was announced at that meeting that Deputy Chief Chad Augustine is leaving. He is heading down to Pasadena to be the fire chief of Pasadena, California. So congratulations to Chad. Over my time here and with everybody else, we've really have a great relationship and working together. And he will be leaving, I believe, the end of February. Yesterday, I spoke or tried to speak at the Carmichael Rotary Club. Captain Vestal and Director Sheets filled in. I was having technical difficulties, much like Randy is, or Director Orzali is right now. And I was very happy that those folks were there. We talked about 2020. We talked about COVID, Carmichael, and deployments over this past year. Also on yesterday, we had the labor management meeting with Local 522, which went very well. The last thing that I have is just some upcoming events. And I know each year we talk about the Firefighter Burn Institute and the Fill the Boot. On Saturday, February 4th, or no, Saturday, which is February 6th from 9 to 10 is the Chief Challenge. And for the past 3 years, we have been successful in winning the Chief Challenge. So I appreciate any support. I will be sending out an email and a text to each of you. But one of the things that has been, as we go through and we talk about COVID and the challenges that has happened, it has had just a huge impact on the Firefighters Burn Institute. And if you think back, last year we had the Fill the Boot, and right after the Fill the Boot, really we've been hit with COVID. So a number of their large funding opportunities, whether it was the crab feed, the tropical affair, the Guns and Hoses football game, just a whole bunch of those things had been canceled. And really the Fill the Boot was what helped that agency stay in place and be able to be functional. They've already had to cancel their crab feed for 2021 and the tropical affair for 2021. So as much as I want to be the top chief again, I think it's just as important we see it every single day is the services that they provide to our members that end up with some type of a burn injury, the services that they provide really to all the fire service throughout the state. And then just the other thing is for kids, burn survivors. They've done a lot this year with taking things and still being able to support them, but being able to support them, whether it was in a virtual way or Joe Pick being that one individual that's been able to get into the hospital and being able to provide service in there. So if you can, more than as much as I want to win, but more than me being the top person, supporting them, because we know that they're going to have a tough year for coming up. And again, I'll send some stuff out but I appreciate that as you go forward. That ends my report unless you have any questions.
Any questions of the chief's report?
I'll turn it over to Chief Mitchell for the operations report then.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, President Kelly, Directors, Chief Harms, Adam Mitchell, Deputy Chief of Operations, giving you some updates here from the operations branch. First off, I'll start off with the vaccinations. We have been battling the constantly changing environment under the direction of county health and really adapting very, very well to the changes. Fortunately, we have been successful in continuing to offer the vaccination to all members that would like it. We're continuing to support our local point of distribution within our own agency through the emergency operations team very, very successfully, and happy to report that we've had, out of all the vials that we've been distributed, we've had zero waste out of that. So every drop that we've been issued, we've been able to get to our members. And so that's a really big win. And in addition, when eventually our supply line changes path to go to other agencies, Cal Expo will continue to be offering that site for vaccinations for the county for many months to come. On the COVID numbers, good news currently, we're down to 21 members that are currently off work due to COVID, 12 of those being positive members that are recovering. So our numbers relative to what they've been at their height are trending down, which is good. Over the entire time, we have had 110 positives since a year ago in all. And I'm happy to also report that since our last meeting, we've experienced 0 station closures or brownouts due to staffing. So another good trend that we're seeing. On the training side, we have engineer evaluations going on. Our 8 members that were promoted back in early November are currently undergoing their 3-month probationary evaluations, and the reports from the training division are that they are performing very highly and doing a great job through their probation. It's a 6-month probation. We do a 3- and a 6-month evaluation, and they're doing really, really well. From air operations, happy to report our continued participation in the federal excess personal property program has been very successful through last year in 2020. Captain Doyle, who's part of air operations, has been managing that. He's been instrumental in our success there. We received over 50 different parts for a combined value of $1.3 million in savings to that program. So we're able to use those items to do maintenance, ranging from engine transmission components all the way to a forklift that we're able to utilize during major overhaul. Also good news, our internal pilot training career track, Captain Bryce Mitchell has successfully completed his training and is now signed off as a pilot in command. So that's a first for us and a big win there. And then lastly, in air operations, we hired a new part-time pilot, Andy Matischak. He brings a diverse background, a lot of experience in aviation. And so that's really going to help us moving into this next season for staffing our air operations program. Next, I'll cover some statistics and I'll cover the storm beat coverage, as I say here. This last storm that's come through and we're currently experiencing still started on the afternoon of day 2 on A shift on Tuesday, the 26th. Some pretty incredible numbers and statistics coming out of there. From 5 p.m. on that day until 5 p.m. the next day, our members ran a total of 668 incidents. It's a pretty incredible number. Now, when you consider that normally we run 270 incidents. So that's a 250% increase during that one operational period, 5 to 5, that we see in call volume over normal. And then also of note, on a normal day, we typically would respond between 50 and 55 non-fire incidents. That day we had 384. So an incredible number, 765% increase of non-fire incidents that day. And CAD stayed busy all throughout the morning hours. So our multiple stations, due to the widespread power outages were on backup generator for extended periods. But I'm happy to report we had no issues there and they were all successful in continuing to provide service. We had a couple of responses that went over 12 hours of on-scene times due to the utility company drawdown and their ability to respond to incidents. And a huge kudos go out to our CERT members. We were able to activate our CERT members to be able to do some standbys at some of those utility hazard incidents. And also during some of the responses, we were rotating some of our fire crews out during the day to maintain scene safety and security until utilities showed up to secure those life hazards. Overall, from the shift commanders that were on that day, they wanted to reinforce the coordination and communications were phenomenal for our members. It's a great example of what our members are capable of, and really speaks to the professionalism of what our folks do every day and what our system can do, even with that massive increase in call volume. Some statistics since last meeting, we've had 18 building fires that our members have responded to in the county, and 7 of those were in our own district, and they were actual working fire incidents. 4,025 total calls and 3,583 total EMS calls with 1,983 transports, and Engine and Medic 53 continue to lead the pack there. And then lastly, I wanted to reference the command manual. This has been a very long-term, multiple-year project for us. We were finally able to release the hard copy this week on January 26th out to the membership. We'll also be able to use this as a reference in our promotional testing that comes up. And we're able to publish the manual, and it's supported through our partnership with Amazon for maintenance and editing and any additional orders that we might make in the future for capacity. So that's a really good thing. Having this information written down at this point, it continues to support our ability to solidify our decision-making processes into the future. And it's a giant step forward in ensuring we continue that strive for consistency in our operations as a professional, large organization. We'd like to take a minute here, Art, if you could. We have a short video that we send out to the crews for the directors to watch. If you could go ahead and cue that up, and I'll come back when it's over.
Going back in the history of Metro Fire from the time that we came together from different agencies, we've lived through inconsistent operations across battalions or shifts, and not knowing those expectations on a day-to-day basis can make it challenging, to say the least, if you are in the position of command and making decisions. The intent of putting together the command doctrine, highlighting the points of the command philosophy, incident alignment, and risk assessment, is to provide those consistent expectations and operations so that folks coming to work on, no matter what shift or battalion that you're on, have an understanding at the core of what it is we're doing and how we're getting there.
If you look at a lot of organizations, and no difference here in Metro Fire, is one of the things that we all strive for is consistency. Consistency in our operations, consistency in our training, consistency overall, whether you're in the North Battalion of Battalion 5 or if I'm in Battalion 9 on the south end of the district.
With this rollout, we've finally come to fruition after a number of years, starting with the command philosophy back in the mid-2010s, all the way now to having a full document put together that describes from front to back everything that we do every day here as a professional, aggressive, and consistent organization.
The importance of the command philosophy is that it takes and it writes it down in a format that can be used every single day, really across the district and with our partners that we have out there.
A great thing about having this process in place with the command philosophy and utilizing all the steps within that is that people can get to an outcome that's safe, effective, efficient for the people that we serve, but they can do it in a different way. It doesn't all have to be the same. The first step in this process is making sure that we write it down. We now have that, and it's written in the command manual. We're going to take it out, we're going to train with it, we're going to take it into the field on emergency incidents and apply it. We'll talk about it after incidents occur in our after actions and learn from it. And then the last piece is, this is a living document. We've already identified that the critical step in this is to make sure that we're consistently updating it, making sure it's the most effective and efficient and safe way to operate. And this will be Metro Fire's way of doing business into the future.
Perfect. Thanks, Art. So other than that being a rollout for our manual, I think it's important to recognize that video was produced by our membership here, incredibly talented folks in our organization. So here it is. Here's the final document. We have it in hand now. You'll each receive a copy. We'll get them over to Melissa Padilla. But really, really a big step for us moving forward, and really happy that we're finally here. So that pretty much ends my report, and I will take any questions if you have any.
Any questions for the Chief Mitchell? Anybody? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir.
Thanks.
Moving on to Sac Metro Fire, Firefighters Local 522.
Good evening, President Kelly and directors. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, most of the items I want to discuss tonight have already been covered. I really appreciate Shay's work with Fleet. As everyone's aware, this is a very manpower driven workforce, and to accomplish those goals, we need the right equipment, and that was handled tonight. I appreciate that. I also wanted to comment on the Firefighters Pacific Burn. I'm sorry, I always say that, the old name, the Burn Institute, and Fill the Boot for Burns. As Chief Harms mentioned, getting incoming donations to that organizations have been a struggle the last 12 months. I hope to see most of you out there. If you get a chance to stop by that weekend, I will be there. I also wanted to reach out and once again say thank you. It's a great privilege to not only be an employee of Metro Fire, but to represent the membership. And one of the huge advantages we've had of late is the COVID testing unit and the ability to test our own people in-house and now get vaccinated in-house. I think that's a win for everybody. That concludes my report for the night, unless anybody has any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. McGoldrick? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to committee and delegate reports. The executive committee. The executive committee has not reported or has not met, we met last month, but anyhow, the executive committee has nothing to report. Our next meeting will be as to be determined as needed. Communications Center JPA, Deputy Chief Wagman.
Good evening, President Kelly, directors, and Fire Chief Harms. The Dispatch JPA board has not met since our last board meeting. Our next scheduled board meeting is going to be on February 9th at 9 o'clock in the morning. I would, though, like to take just a moment to recognize Chief Bailey and his staff over the Dispatch Center for a job well done over this wind event over the last 48 hours. It is not uncommon for us to be incredibly busy during a specific time frame, and typically we see this, over a 2, 3, 4 hour period. But to see it for 16 to 24 hours, where the phones are ringing off the hook constantly, we don't see that very often. And I think as the statistics start to come forward, we are definitely breaking some records. So I just want to commend the staff for doing an outstanding job. They were dispatching calls as fast as they possibly could, and our firefighters were answering every call just as fast as they possibly could. So that ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Moving on to the California Fire and Rescue Training JPA. Chief Harms.
The training JPA, we met on January 21st. We discussed the impact of COVID on training classes, the removal of EMS classes, and overall they are still on target with COVID restrictions in place, and they are also on budget. We also discussed the future of the facilities, facility needs, and requested that they come back with a long-term plan. We had a closed session that ended a lawsuit and was able to close that out at that time. That ends my report. Our next meeting is on April 15th.
Thank you very much, sir. Moving on to the Finance and Audit Committee. I know Director Rosali, are you available? Director Jones, would you care to report out, or should I ask Ms. Pania?
Well, technically now, Director Wood is our second chair here.
Okay.
But I can do it. It doesn't
Go
matter.
ahead, Director
Ted,
Jones.
you want to go or you want me to?
Go ahead.
All right, thanks. Finance Committee met tonight. We accomplished a lot, and thank you all for joining us at the end. Amanda went through all the stats up through October 2020 and also came forward with some policy recommendations that both the Finance Committee, the Policy Committee, and the full board will be hearing about starting next month. We have accomplished our minimum required reserve with 15.3%. And however, we are behind on our capital replacement reserve. And we're looking at ways to invest and build up that capital replacement reserve. And you will be hearing a lot more about this when the Finance Division brings out their policy recommendations. Director Wood, do you have anything to add, sir?
No, you've more than covered it. Thank you.
That finishes the finance report, and we'll be meeting, I don't have it in front of me, but we will know soon enough.
Thank you very much, Director Jones. Next meeting is scheduled for February 25th. All right, moving on to the Policy Committee, Director Gould.
Policy Committee will be meeting February 11th at 5:30 in these virtual environments.
Thank you. And before we move on to board member questions and comments, it is this board's intention this evening to recognize Sacramento Sheriff's Deputy Adam Gibson, who lost his life in the line of duty last weekend, or weekend before last, excuse me. And then also K9 Riley. K9 officer was killed that evening also. We will stand a moment in silence at the close of our meeting after the board member comments and questions. Moving on to board member comments and questions. Director Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say thank you for all the reports tonight. I got to sneak in on the finance. That's a pretty awesome achievement by everyone involved to get to that one goal. Look forward to some of the additional policies to maintain that fiscal stability. And I also want to thank the IT department for doing a wonderful job of building out this new pretty flashy website for us. I think that's going to be great for the community to be able to get access. And thanks for putting the transparency certificates where people could see in public how awesome everyone is. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Director Jones.
Thank you, President Kelly. I'd like to reiterate what Director Gould said. Excellent reports. And my thoughts and best wishes are for every member who has to jump on a rig and respond under these trying weather circumstances. Please stay safe.
Thank you. Director Rosali, are you able to join us for board member comments and questions? Looks like no. Director White.
Oh, thank you. Just a few things. First, I want to thank the Fleet Division for utilizing Sourcewell and making sure we're getting the most competitive prices and making sure that we are providing the personnel with the equipment that they need, and keeping a responsible apparatus replacement program. Additionally, I want to thank Air Operations for taking advantage of the FEEP program, the Federal, Excess Equipment program, and utilizing the benefits that are available there. Next, I had both, Captain Chris Vestal, Fire Marshal Krishana Fields, as well as Diana Schmidt, Inspector Schmidt, all attended the last Rancho Marietta Fire Safe Council meeting, and I appreciate their time and attention. I know they, it's a lot of after hours work, but they seem to be big contributors, and the community truly appreciates that. The crews also responded recently and made a nice stop on a garage fire, and I appreciate the efforts. Lastly, I would like to touch on the same thing as Chief Harms at the Firefighter Burn Institute. Just take a minute and tell you a little bit about why it's so important to all of us. Is in addition to the programs, the burn survivor, the burn liaison program, where a burn member would never be left alone while they're in the hospital, and they would, be assisted throughout their recovery. The burn survivor camps for adults, but, maybe most importantly, the burn survivor camp that they put on annually for children. As a lot of you know, that burn injuries are intensely painful. They can be disfiguring, and they come with a psychological impact as well. And when they happen to children, a lot of times that the skin loses its elasticity, but yet the body doesn't really know that. It wants to continue to grow. So a lot of times these children are in for a lifetime of relief surgeries on top of their initial injuries. So for them, once a year, to have the opportunity to be around other children that also understand what they're going through and be like everyone else in the room rather than different, that has a huge impact on improving their outlook on life. So I really just want to say how important and how valuable the Firefighter Burn Institute is, and just encourage everybody to either get out there or contribute and keep the valuable programs they're providing going. Thank you.
Thank you, Director White. Director Sheets.
Thank you. I have no comment tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Woods.
I would just echo what's already been said by my prior directors, and they've said it very well. Thank you.
Director Clark.
I have nothing more to add, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Director Sailors.
I think everyone has eloquently spoken very well, but I would also like to extend my congratulations to Captain Bryce Mitchell for getting his pilot's license for his own piloting on our helicopters with Metro Fire. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. I have no comments other than when we close the meeting. Again, we will close it in honor of Sheriff's Deputy Adam Gibson and the K-9 Officer Riley. Thank you all. That brings this meeting to a close. Anything else from any directors? Seeing none, I will proceed to tell you all to have a nice early, late month weekend, and see you soon.
Thank you,
Good
Mr.
evening,
President.
everybody.
Thank you, President Kelly. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.